Blessed day, guys, and peace be upon you this morning. So in this video, we're going to learn how to configure OSPF plus static routing on a Cisco firewall. So I'll just open our Google spreadsheet. I'll let you know that today we're doing number 5 under firewall configuration. So firewall routing, static plus OSPF, okay? All right, so I'll just open our notepad to let the steps follow to achieve the objective. So the first step always here under OSPF and default static routing. So the first step is always to draw the necessary topology, decorate and comment. So guys, we've been configuring firewall, and among the things that we've done is to configure basic settings. We've configured DHCP, we've configured SSH. So today we're going to connect 3 networks, okay, this one and this one, using a firewall, okay, and implement OSPF between the inside network and the firewall, and implement default static routing between the firewall and outside network, okay. So this topology is blank. I have not configured anything on this topology. I've just placed the devices, okay, and do the connection, all right, and maybe the comments. So you can see this inside network, this is DMZ, and this outside network. So I'll just input another firewall. I just put firewall at the center. So click on the firewalls and choose 5506-X firewall. Choose 5506-X firewall. In this lab we use 5506, okay. Then just connect them. So I'll just connect them randomly, very fast. All right, so that's done. So guys, in this scenario here, we have inside network on the left, outside network at the top, and DMZ on the right. So in this setup, we trust the inside network because this is where our users are. We don't trust outside network because we don't know those people who are connected via the outside network. But we partially trust DMZ because DMZ is where we place our servers, okay? Alright, so we want to implement a routing protocol such that OSPF works between the firewall and the inside router, okay? But the default static routing works between the firewall and the ISP router, because you know that default static routing is a routing protocol whereby we don't know the destination. Maybe the source might request a destination that is not in the routing table. So in that scenario, we use default static routing such that all that routes that is not in the routing table are forwarded to the ISP route, okay. All right, so without any further ado, guys, I've explained enough. So I'll just go back to our notepad, and step 2, you can see step 2 under OSPF and default static routing. You can see configure hostname, enable passwords, username and password. So guys, basically we want to configure hostname here, enable password and username and password. So let's just go very fast, save time. All right, so just say enable, and the first password of a Cisco firewall is always blank, so just hit enter and enable and config T. Then hostname, so just say hostname. Let's use perimeter firewall and hit enter. And then what do we do now? We configure username, enable password first. So just say enable password to be, I want it to be Cisco, small, lowercase, okay. And then username and password, just say username, I want it to be Cisco. Then password to be Cisco 2, okay, and you hit enter. All right, so the next step here you can see is configure IP addresses, name the interfaces and give them security levels. Okay, all right. So basically, we're going to configure interfaces on the firewall. We give them we give the interface's name, because an interface will be referred to. We reference to the interface using its name. So you have to name them and give them security levels. Okay, all right. So let's do that. So what do you do now? We start with this interface, which is gig 1/1. So we just go here and say interface gig 1/1 and we hit enter. And say no shut, because you can see it's shutdown state. Okay, now it's up, although on the router side, we'll do on the router side later. Okay, then what do? We name the interface. We give it a name. We just say name if, to be being that this interface is connected to inside router, we say the name is inside and we hit enter. Then we give it a security level. We give it a security level. We just say security level to be 100%, because we trust the inside network. Okay, we hit enter still. Okay, and now we give it an IP address. You can see the IP range is 10.10.10.0/30. So we just say IP add to be 10.10.10.1. okay, with the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. hit enter and exit. Then we go to the interface that is connecting the DMZ. Yeah, demilitarized zone. Okay, so this interface you can see is gig 1/3. So we just go here and say gig 1/3. The first thing, no shut. Okay, then you give it a name to be, we want to give it a name of DMZ, because you can see it's connected to the demilitarized zone. So you just say DMZ and you hit enter. Then you give it a security level. Well, we partially trust what is coming from the DMZ, so we can give it a security level of let's say 60%. Okay, all right. Then we assign it a IP address. So in this range, you can see the IP address is 172.16 and 10.0/28. So just say IP add to be 172.16.10.1. okay, then the subnet mask is 255.255.255.240, because /28 notation, and you just hit enter and exit. And finally, you configure this interface. Which is a gig 0/2. So you just go here and configure gig 0/2. First thing, no shut, and then give it a name. Name it as outside, because you can see it's connecting to outside, and hit enter. Then security level, we totally don't trust what's coming from outside, so we give it a security level of 0, the lowest priority. Okay, all right. Then IP address. So IP address there, it will be like 10.10 no 20.20.20 slash to, here will be 252, then 20.20.20 20 and we hit enter and exit. So I think on the first interface, which is gig 0/1, this one should be 252 because of /30 notation here. Okay, so I just copy this one and go back to gig 1/1 and edit that. So we make it 252 because of /30 notation here. Okay, all right, exit and do right. So guys, sorry, in the firewall we say write memory, not do write. Write mem. Yeah. So the second thing that we do, guys, now we go to individual router and configure IP addresses to the interfaces. So I'll start from the inside router, then I go to ISP router. Okay. So let's start with our inside router. So I'll just go to inside .router and configure this interface gig 00, which is the first interface connecting to the inside to have 192.168.100.1. Then this inside this interface of ISP router to have 8881. Okay, so I'll do it very, very fast this time because I know you know how to configure IP addresses on the router's interfaces. Okay, all right. Alright, so I've done IP configuration on the router's interfaces such that this interface has taken 10.10.10.2. This interface has taken 100.1. This interface of the router, this interface has taken 20.20.2. And this interface has taken 8881. Okay? Alright, so guys, basically, it's the time that now we configure OSPF on the router, on the inside router, and the firewall, right? So we're going to configure OSPF here to advertise the directly connected networks. Okay, all right, so let's just do that very, very fast. And do right. All right, so we've done OSPF configuration on this router. So let's do OSPF configuration on this router very, very fast to save time. So let's do OSPF configuration on the firewall very, very fast. So I click on the firewall. Then what you say, we just say router OSPF 50. Okay. With then a router ID. Router ID of, let's use 2.1.2.1. Okay. All right. Then you advertise networks. So in the case of firewall, you can see it's connected to how many networks? 3. 1, 2, 3. So we advertise 3 networks. So the first network, we just say network. The first network is this network, which is connected to the servers 172.16.10.0. Then a wildcard mask of 0.0.0. This is slash 2028. Slash 28 notation is normally 255.255.240. So 255 minus 240 is 15. Okay, area 0, and we hit enter. Oops, I can see we have a problem here, and another problem. So in the firewall, we do not use wildcard mask. In firewall, we use the normal subnet mask. So just say 255.255.255.240 and hit enter. Yeah. So in firewall, do not use wildcard mask. Use subnet mask. Okay. All right. So another network is another. The last step is to configure default static routing between the firewall and outside router, which is ISP router. Okay, so we want to configure the firewall such that it forwards any traffic that doesn't match the routing table to ISP. Okay, so we just click on the firewall and then minimize a little bit. Then what we say now, we say we want to route outside. Okay, so we just say route outside. Yes, route outside. Okay, then when I try to query, you can see it's telling me to write the network, the subnet. Okay, so for default routing, we write the default route. So we just say 0.0.0.0, any IP address with any subnet mask okay, should go through the out interface, okay, the outside interface. So when it goes to the outside interface, the next op IP will be the IP address of the ISP router here, okay. So gig 01 on the ISP router, you can see it's 20.20.22. So we just say 20.20.20.2 and you hit enter. That's all about default static routing on the firewall. And if I can just say show IP route. Just a minute, and show route. Yes, so you can see here we have OSPF is here, okay. You can see OSPF entry is here, okay, with advertising this network, okay, through the inside interface. They have formed neighbors, okay. Then we have default static routing here, okay. Gateway, the gateway of last resort, default static routing, and OSPF has been configured successfully. So guys, basically I believe this video is really helping out to configure OSPF and default static routing on a Cisco ASA Firewall. So when we meet next, we're going to use this same topology, being that now we've configured routing protocols, okay. So we're going to use this same topology to configure firewall policy so that this network, and this network can communicate. As of now, this network and this network cannot communicate. And if I can just go here, I can see IP address is 8881, and try to ping 8881 here. Ping 8.8.8.1. It cannot reach. Why? Because firewall is blocking any traffic by default. Unless you configure the policies, there will be no communication. So when we meet next, let's configure policies on the firewall so such that these we can restrict the access to the DMZ and allow our inside users to access maybe the Google server here, okay. Alright, so thank you so much guys. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, share with friends, and let's see you again in the part of firewall policies configuration. Bye.